Hi friends, it's Becky, and today I want to create using some of the beads in the October Beads of the Month 2-hole bead subscription. And I also get the seed bead subscription, so I grabbed one of these neutral colors to add to the rest of this. I subscribe to both the seed bead subscription and 2-hole bead subscription. Adornable Elements has a lot of other subscriptions that are available. I also subscribe to the Rotating Beads of the Month Club, so that landed on 2-hole beads, so I have double the amount this month, which I'm very tickled for because I love these beads and I'm so ready to do this. But for my idea, I'm going to be making a wrap bracelet, and not just a wrap bracelet, one that wraps around 3 times. So if I need to dip into my double size stash in order to build out this bracelet, I can do that. I'm going to try to do it with just the ones that come in the single one, so that if you're following along and you want to make this with me and you've got these beads, you can. I'm going to be using these Samos. These are a Parpuka bead, and I'm using these purple guys. They are like a little oval 2-hole cabochon almost. These guys right here. I'm also going to be using the Orange Luster Super Duos that came in that box, or in that subscription. I'm just going to dump them all out here. I've got these purple honeycomb beads that have this web print on them. And this was the Trick or Treat collection. It was really popular. They have sold out. So well, some individual beads might be available if you were to contact them. I don't think you'd be able to get exactly this collection because, again, it was very popular. So we're going to be using those. And then I've got these spiral or target painted 2-hole coin beads that are going to be part of this design. And I have 10 that came in the subscription, but since I got double, I actually have 10, or 5 came in the subscription. Since I got double, I have 10 of them. Great. And then we've got these 11 seed beads. I think they have a nice, like, brass vibe to them for a metallic kind of color. So we're going to be spacing out some of our 2-hole beads using these, but I also am going to be pulling from my bead stash to add to this. So I would like to also include some beads from my very extensive Halloween collection. This is about 15% of my Halloween stash beads. It's just one of the boxes, but I got these fantastic black cube beads. I don't know if you can see them. I thought they would be super duper awesome to add to this. I've also got these extremely orange crystal beads that we might be able to pop in between some of these. So I'm going to just move these over here. Am I going to have enough for this? I think I will, actually. Do I need to get some fire polish beads? Do I? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. But my idea for the wrap bracelet actually comes from, I was prompted by one of my friends here on YouTube who had asked if I ever make wrap bracelets, and I haven't for a little while. So I thought we would do that with these 2-hole beads, because it'll be a really fun way to incorporate all of them. It'll be fairly easy, you know, not too difficult. And then I can have a really fun and funky Halloween themed wrap bracelet that I can wear using some of these 2-hole beads. Now the Summers are the ones that I have the least amount of, well, aside from these big ones. But the big ones are going to be just on one portion. So what I want to do is do like 1/3 of it with the Samos and Super Duos. The middle third using the honeycomb and these beads, and then the last third with these, so that when I wrap it, it'll be like kind of a sandwich. I'll have like my main one in the middle, and then a sandwich with the other two on the other side when it's wrapped around the wrist. That is my idea. And so I am just pulling out these orange guys, and I think I'm going to use this little jack-o'-lantern coin bead as a button closure for this too, which is, if you haven't seen the little trick that I have done before, where I use just a coin bead to make a little closure, treating it like you would a button. It is a fun little hack. It's super, super easy to do, and it just, you know, expands the range of things that you can use for closures. If you're like, oh, you know what, I have a little jack-o'-lantern bead, I'm going to use this as a closure on my design. So we'll do that. I've got some purple beading wire. I thought if there's any space in between some of these beads to have this purple pop through, it'll be really, really fun. So I've got some purple amethyst soft flex, and let me see how much of this I have on this spool. I have other spools if this isn't enough, but I'm going to want this to go around my wrist 6 times, because it's going to be 2 strands wrapped 3 times around my wrist. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there's a little bit extra for bulk of beads, and also, so it's pretty much what was left on that spool is going to be what I'm working with on here. All right, so I'm going to be working with 2 ends at the same time on this, and we're just going to be going through the 2-hole beads with both ends, and then stringing beads on each one, and then going through the next 2-hole bead. It's a pretty easy design to use 2-hole beads with. It can be really fun to do that. I'm just looking at this and thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do, since I want it half and half, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just divide them up before I even begin. That way I can evaluate. Before I get to the end, as to whether or not I'm going to dip into the second thing of Samos. Yeah, let's just get started. Let's get going. I might add a little, some smaller beads as well. I have a bunch of orange beads. For someone who doesn't like orange, I sure have a lot of orange beads. I think these 3mm fire polish too might be a good idea. Alright, so let's get these guys, start getting these guys off the thing. So I'm going to get it started. We'll start the beading pattern, and because the beading pattern will change 1/3 of the way through, after I get it established, I will go ahead and let you guys time travel to where I get to that point, and I'll show you how we changed the new beading pattern. And then once that beading pattern is finished, we'll switch back to the other beading pattern, and I'll show you how to finish the bead. So that's how we're going to do this. I have some crimpers and some flush cutters. I'm going to be using these, well, mainly at the end right now, because the wire didn't really need to be cut, did it? I'm just using exactly what was on the spool. It's to cut the wire. That's what that's there for. Alright. So I can hear you saying, Becky, if you've got all those organization things up at the top, why are you putting them out on your mat? It's because it's easier for me to get to when they're on the mat, and you guys can see it easier. Alright, so in order to get my little button done, I'm I'm going to need my coin bead, and you could do this with any bead that has a flat side. Like only one side needs to be flat in order to do this. I have done this with those resin rose beads that have one side flat and the other side has the raised, like bumpy rose texture on the other side. That has worked for me before. Pretty darn well. So only one side of a coin bead needs to be, and I'm losing my black cubes. That's fine. It needs to be flat. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through just one strand on that bead, hold these two together, and then I'm going to move this down to basically the middle of my wire. That way I can start building up my bracelet from there, all the way going from there. And now I'm going to put my crimp tube on both wires at the same time. We're not going to be crisscrossing any of these wires through other beads. It's all going to be just a straight shot through them. Now what I want to do is get this bead scooched up as close as I can, or the crimp scooched up as close as I can to both the middle of and the side of, right there, mostly in the middle of this coin bead. And once it's scooched up as close as I can get it, I'm going to start crimping. You can do this with any crimping method. I prefer a magical crimper. You just center that crimp into this only concavity that there is in here and give it a smush. It smushes down just the corners, so when you turn it at like a 90-degree angle and then you turn it at different angles, you just go and hit it from all of the angles. It smooths out the corners of the crimp. Can you guys see that? And now I have a little button closure, so when I get to the end we'll make a loop, and whether we're going to put some seed beads on it or not, the loop will go around this and it will hold the bracelet together. So using a bead as a closure is one of my favorite hacks. I love it. Alright, let's pick up 3 seed beads on each strand. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. That's just so that the strands can start to separate a little bit, like that. Right, now I'm going to pick up 1 black cube on each strand. And I might have to pick these up and put them on manually. There we go. Oh, these are so tiny. I think they're 3 millimeters. They're so tiny, but they're so flashy and sparkly. And I love when you get sparkles in black beads. I love that. It makes me really happy. Alright, and then I'm going to grab a couple of these, 1 on each strand, because we're starting small here at the end. And then the black cubes. Like that. And then 3 of the seed beads. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. Alright, now the fun thing about 2-hole beads is that they have 2 holes. So I'm going to put each end of my wire through one of the holes, separate holes, in this Super Duo. I want them to go through in the same direction, not in opposite directions. Like that. Slide that down. So I am on a little bit of a roll. Alright, I'm going to do the same bead pattern here. The 3 11-ohs. I'm going to do one strand at a time though. 3 11-ohs, a square bead, a large orange bead, then a square bead, and then 3 11-ohs, I'm going to do that on each side. Remember, I have a lot more of these square beads up here. One, two, three. Alright. And now I'm going to go through both holes on one of the samos. Now I'm going to have to decide which side is going to be the right side and which side is going to be the wrong side of this, because the samos have a right and wrong side. You've got your like clear pearlescent side on these particular ones, and then you've got your clear side on that side, and one side is domed and the other side is flat. So if I go through it both in the same direction, I'm going to want to remember which way I go through these beads each time I do that. And when I do that, it really helps if I line them all up in the same direction, so that when I come to the next one, it's already lined up. I know that I'm going from, if this is the top and this is the bottom, I'm going from bottom to top through those holes. And that's just for consistency, so that as I go along, I don't have some facing this way and some facing that way on the same direction, on the same side of the strand. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to repeat this repeat. I'm going to start with the 3 11-ohs here next to the button. I'm going to do the black cube and the 3mm fire polish, black cube, 3 seed beads, and then we'll go back down to our, what is that called? Super Duo. Oh boy, it's been a morning. It's not morning anymore. What am I talking about? Anyway, yes, this is what kind of day we're having. The Super Duos. And then we're going to do this with the larger beads and do with samos. And then go back here and do this one. So I'm going to repeat this whole repeat until it is long enough to fit all the way around my wrist one time. And when I reach that length, that's when I'm going to switch to a new beading pattern. It'll probably be the same one. I'm just going to be replacing the samos with these and replacing the Super Duos with these. Just spoiler alert. But when we get there, I'll show you how to go ahead and do that transition. So I'm going to do this repetition until it fits all the way around my wrist one time. Alright, so this is the part where I'm going to start switching to a new beading pattern. I've got 1/3 of my bracelet, which is one wrap all the way around my wrist, strung. And now I'm going to be continuing a similar pattern, but I'm replacing the samos with the hex beads, and I'll be replacing the Super Duos with these guys. I'm also going to just be using these larger beads in between each of those segments instead of the 3mm fire polish beads. So just like with the other, I'm going to put on my 3 11-Os on each strand, a black cube bead, one of these larger crystals, black cube bead, and 3 of the 11-O seed beads. And I do have to say that I wasn't sure how many beads it would take to get to this length. So I'm really pleased that you'll be able to make this using just a single amount of the subscription instead of the double amount, because all of the it's not going to even use up all of the beads from there, except for these bullseye beads. Those are the only ones that are going to use up all of the beads. Everything else will be some leftovers to use with some other projects, which I have a project that I'm going to be doing with the Samos a little bit later, either this week or next week. We'll figure it out when we get to it. But I think it'll be really fun to work with those on something. But I like doing the simple stringing like this, and then we'll have a more complicated project later. Alright, so now that I've got that bead pattern on each strand, I'm going to take my bead strands, and these hex beads don't have like a front or back, so it doesn't matter which side we go through. We just want to make sure that, like the other 2-hole beads, we're going through both holes. One hole for each strand of beading wire, and that we're going in the same direction. Like that. Alright, so we've got the hex beads on here. Let's do another 1, 2, 3. Black squares, 1, 2, 3. On that side, whoop! I forgot part of my pattern. I need my orange bead, and then another black square, and then the 3 seed beads. Yes. Sometimes my head gets ahead of itself, and I'll be thinking ahead to what's coming next in the pattern. And when that happens, sometimes I skip part of that pattern. So it's always a good idea to look at your work as you're doing it to see if you've missed anything. And you know what? I know you guys who have been watching my channel for a while know that I do this, because it happens. 1, 2, 3. You aren't afraid to leave me a comment letting me know, hey, you forgot this. And I appreciate that. I really do. Don't ever be afraid to chime in and let me know. This will be super spooky, and I love it. 1, 2, 3. Right, now we're going to go for our bullseyes. Coin beads. Alright, now I'm going to repeat this pattern until I've got all of my bullseyes, and I've finished off the other side with one of the hex beads, because it's going to go like this. I need a hex bead on the end too. So once I have all of these on here with these spaces in between filled in with my beading pattern with these larger beads. Then I'm going to switch back. I'm going to mirror the end till it's exactly this same pattern that I had on this side. And I will meet you after I've strung all of that up. I don't think you guys need me to show the transition back, because all I'm going to do is, after I put on my last hex bead, this will be, I'm going to do the large beads, and then I'm going to mirror this pattern on the other side. So it'll be kind of a different order that I put them on, but they'll be mirrored going through that. And that way too, like when you're wearing it, that will go in one direction and then it'll go the other direction for the other. It'll be fun. It'll be a really fun bracelet for wearing. Anyway, I will string this along. You guys time travel to when this is all strung, and I'll meet you back here to finish up this bracelet. I know I said I'd meet back when we're ready to finish it, but I just wanted to point out that these will probably take up a lot more space than I was thinking. This will go around my wrist completely, just about. So I'm not going to need these extra 2 bullseye beads or hex beads that I had pulled out for that. I can use these for earrings. So that would be really great. So here's where I'm going to go ahead, and now that it's one time around my wrist, so I got one time, second time, and then I'm going to fill out the rest of this the same way. So it's going to be going from here out. I'm just going to copy what I've already strung, but in this direction, and going the other way in order to mirror it. But that's going to be enough beads, just 3 of those bullseye beads and 4 of the hex beads. So I will go ahead and string the rest of this and meet you back here when it's time to finish it. And we're going to make our loop and we're going to crimp it, and it'll be wonderful and fun. See you soon. Okay, so we are all strung. This end matches the other end. I have 1/3 using the Samos and Super Duos. I have the other third using the hex beads and the Target coins, and then I have the next third using the Samos and the Super Duos again. And so we're ready to finish this up, but before I do, I'm just going to do a real quick check to make sure that this will wrap around my wrist 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Yep, that's gonna fit great. All right, so let's make a loop with our wire. And like, I have enough wire to be able to make a little loop on the end that will go around our the guy, this one. I think I'm going to pop one of these, a bead in between, and do 2 crimps. One to bring these wires together, and then the next crimp for the loop, and I'm going to have this bead between the crimps. That'll just add a tidge of extra space on just a tiny bit of length on the bracelet, so it's not super tight. I mean, it was a little loose, but still kind of on the tight side just now when I did that before. So I'm going to grab 2 crimps and one of these beads, and I'm going to put both wires through one of these crimps, and I'm just gonna make sure that all of these beads are settled into place. Just running this along the whole length. Okay, so that's going to be good. I want to make sure that there's a little bit of space between these seed beads and the crimp, so I'm just using my fingernail to separate them. And then I'm going to crimp it the same way I crimped the other, where I center it right here in my crimp pliers. Give it a smush, and then rotate it, smush it again, rotate it and smush, and just keep going around until it is nice and secure. And that's just going to bring 2 wires down to 1. I'm going to take the shortest one, I'm going to cut it right off right here. There we go. And now I'm going to string this guy on, because he's going to be our little buffer between that crimp and the next one. And I'm going to put on this crimp bead and then feed this back through the crimp and the wire. And now I want to adjust this loop so that it's the right size for this. Now that's going to be way too big, so let's get a little bit smaller. I want to make sure that this can go over, but not so it's too big. I think just a little bit smaller. Let's try that. Oop. Pinching it, and that is actually moving it a little bit closer. And I'm going to go ahead and leave the purple wire showing instead of using some seed beads to cover it. You can absolutely use seed beads to cover it. If you do that, just pick up enough seed beads to go around the whole thing. Add and subtract seed beads as you're checking to see how big. I think that's going to be perfect, actually, that one right there. Okay, so yeah, it'll be the same with measuring it, except you'll do it with beads on and then add and subtract seed beads until it's the right size. But I like the purple wire being visible and being part of this design. That's why I made a conscious choice to use it. Alright, so now I've got my little loop. Double checking that will hold it. And the fun thing about this is that I could wear this as a necklace too, if I wanted to. Alright, let's go ahead and clip off this wire here. And turn that around a little bit. There we go. Perfect. And now I have my Halloween wrap bracelet using the 2-hole beads from the Adornable Elements bead subscription for October. This was the Trick or Treat 2-hole beads. And I just added some extra beads from my stash and then used some of the seed beads that came in my seed bead subscription. And this little pumpkin bead. That was also from my stash. I had so much fun making this. I am ready for Halloween. I am going to be doing more Halloween things. I know not everybody's into it, but I'm going to be enjoying some of it while we do this. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and leave links in the description to my unboxing for this video, and also to Adornable Elements if you want to check them out and look at the subscriptions. They are usually curated, and you get a really fun variety of beads in each of the subscriptions. I have been really enjoying them, and I am so happy with this one. It is spooktacular. Hope y'all are having a fantastic weekend, and I will talk with you later. Bye for now. Happy beading.